am tripping right now on you guys. It's been fun doing this for as long as we've been doing this. The very first Step Success was in 1991. It was April 6th and 7th of 1991. But we only contracted, we were exclusive. Our training was only exclusive to whatever contract or company that we were working with at the time. And so therefore, it was all just one company. It was all just one brand. And then in 2003, we made our training available to anybody. We opened up the gates wide and made it available to the general public. And that came August of 2003. August 23rd was our first event in Carlsbad, California. And so it's been really fun to watch people's family, watch people grow up here, literally, in what is that? How many years? 2003 to 19? Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. That was not very nice. He just reminded me that in 91, he was in the 6th grade. You were in kindergarten? No. 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 Stop. Shut up. Y'all shut up. Not nice. Stop. Wow. Well, I was 22. Yeah, I was 22 and not pregnant yet. But 30 days later, I was. Like, almost exactly. Shut up. Anyway, I'll get you back one day, dude. I don't know how, but I will figure out a way. Because I'm always going to be older than you, and that part sucks. But it's been fun watching people grow up here. Jackie was 25 when he came to his first steps, and he is about to be, or did you already? He's going to be 40 in August. That's right. Birthday's in August. I knew that already. As the many birthday cards and stuff that I've sent your way for the last at least decade. What did you just say? A few and several cigars. Anyway, it's been fun watching people grow up here. It really is. And then to see people who brought their kids here, and then to see their kids get married and make their parents who brought them here grandparents. The Winans. They've been bringing their kids here since the kids were teenagers. And their daughter just got married to a kid she met here. So it's somebody else's kid. So a single mother brought her son, and then these parents brought their son and their daughter. And is it a year ago or 2 years ago that they met? A year ago they met. They just got married 2.5 months ago. And, well, that honeymoon was rather special. Because they're now 8 weeks pregnant. Yeah, that's so exciting. That's like so exciting. Isn't that cool? I love it. Yes. So, yeah, who knows? And, you know, we've even had a client who brought their daughter here, who then married our son. It's like the greatest place to find your kids' spouses. It really is. Rachel, come out here. Rachie. She's actually doing the camera work. There are 3 of them back there doing the camera work and the switching and all of that kind of stuff. And Rachie. Jeez. This is our beautiful daughter-in-love, who was, my hair's stuck on your glasses, who was, it's not your fault. Oh, she's beautiful. She very, very beautiful. But she was 16 when she first started coming to these events, and the events helped to save her parents' marriage. And I'll let you tell the story versus it coming through me, and then you tell a story of all your aunts and uncles, and then you and your hubby.
Oh my gosh. So you want my whole family?
Yeah.
First?
Good.
Okay.
Well, you were 16 when you first started coming, and?
Yeah, sorry. I was just eating strawberries, so I'm like... Yeah, no, so I was 16 years old when I came to my first event, and at the time was suicidally depressed, and my parents were about to get a divorce, and just kind of, life was not very fun. And then my family came through. Actually, my uncle brought my mom, who brought me, and then eventually our entire family came through the events, and my whole family actually had like amazing relationship restoration. Siblings who could barely stand to have a conversation could, oh my gosh! Sorry, Brad and Christina. Siblings who could like barely have a conversation.
Which were your aunts and uncles?
My aunts and uncles, yeah.
That couldn't stand being together.
Yeah, like holidays were like not the greatest. Then anyway, they like had total healing in their relationships and like love each other and like love spending time together. And like when we have family vacations now, they're actually really fun. And instead of kind of like everyone's just like awkward and waiting for it to be over. All my aunts and uncles who are all single actually all got married, and one of my aunts is actually here this weekend. I don't know if she's in here right now, but yeah, Christy. She's in the bathroom. Let's see, what else? My whole family, including like my grandparents, my aunts and uncles, all paid off combined like over $1 million worth of debt, which is pretty wild. Yeah. Yeah, I was cutting myself depressed. Haven't done that since I was like, I think I was like 16 probably, or no, maybe like 17. But so it's been 5 years, over 5 years for that. Was struggling with eating disorders as well. Haven't like, so.
You haven't barfed.
Right. Yeah, and so I'm married now, obviously, too, which is pretty awesome.
Roman Hans Johnson.
Roman Hans Johnson.
Micah's older brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And you guys own?
We own two homes. We actually, which, oh my gosh, this is okay. So I just realized this literally like a couple hours ago. A few years ago, I like put some money into the stock market. I was just like, I'm just gonna like see what happens, whatever. Like if it was an amount where I was like, okay, I'm okay if I like totally lose this, but I just like kind of want to like learn a little bit and see what happens. And it's like almost triple what it was. I literally like just checked it today, and it was like triple what it was. I was like, oh my god, that's so cool. Anyway, so yeah. What else do you want to know? Or like, what else did you want me to say?
You guys never went into credit card debt. You never went into car debt. You guys stayed consumer debt free completely.
Yeah.
The 2 mortgages you have are backed by assets that are worth more than the mortgage, which is awesome. And
yeah, which the second home we're living in right now, but we're fixing it up, and then it'll become another rental property, and then we'll just keep doing that. The goal is to do that for house a year for the next 10 years, and then maybe we can retire by the time we're like 45. Which would be pretty cool.
How old are you?
I'm 23.
And how old is your husband?
He's 21.
It's a tradition in our family somehow. Like, currently, watch it. Watch it. Yeah, all the women are older than the husbands in our family. Started with mom and dad, and then it kept going. But it might stop. The last child is going to change that. Significantly. Actually, he's significantly going to change that. But anyway, how amazing, right? So here's an uncle that walks through the doors and says, oh my gosh, I got to get everyone I know to come to this event, and brings his sister. And his sister brings his niece. And he actually met his wife here, met somebody here, got married, and they're on their second child now? What?
No. Sorry.
Second baby together. She came with the son.
Tyler is adopted.
Anyway, so that whole family got restored. He tripled his income.
Yeah.
Her parents grew their income. They've all paid off debt. Could you imagine being the uncle or the brother that walks in here and goes home and says, you got to come to this thing with me? And he had no idea that his niece is cutting herself and is suicidally depressed. He has no idea that his sister and brother-in-law are talking about getting a divorce. They were waiting for her to graduate from high school, and that was the plan. We're done. We're done. They had it all plotted out and planned out.
Oh, and my dad was also suicidally depressed. My dad was also suicidally depressed, and now it's no longer.
So how amazing, right? There are things happening inside of your family that you don't know about. But they lived in a beautiful home, had nice new cars.
Went to Christian school.
They were highly educated, both of them engineers, right? Everything on the outside looked great, and the brother is thinking everything probably is great, but I got to get everyone I know to come to this. We're talking like suicidally depressed, a father and a daughter, not to mention the other siblings that had all their stuff going on, not to mention the family carrying as a family balance sheet, as the entire family, the mom, the dad, the grandparents, the siblings, who they're married to, their children, with over $1 million worth of debt. No wonder they were miserable on a family vacation. No wonder the holidays were like backbiting. And I remember being with her grandfather and him just with tears in his eyes, just saying, thank you, thank you. Our family gatherings were snippety. People were backbiting with each other. They were sarcastic with each other. And now,
Then we went to Belize and built an orphanage together.
that's a transformation of a family because of one guy that walks in here. His life gets rocked and says, I got to get everyone I know to come to this. Isn't that amazing? And look, they bring the teenage daughter, who then meets our teenage son. And they've been married for 1.5 years. Yeah. And they're doing amazing financially. In fact, they both work. Her income is solidly for building wealth. Roman provides for the two of them. They live frugal. They've not been silly with credit cards or any of that. They're investors at 21 and 23. And Roman's been an investor since he was 15 years old. That's called grooming the next generation for success. That's called caring enough about your family to reach out to them, to invite them to something that works. That's called the family coming together, unifying after a common goal. And look at the beautiful things that come out of it. It's pretty awesome. And she's gorgeous. And she's smart. And she's amazing. And before she was married to our son, she started off as an assistant to the event director. And has moved her way through learning all kinds of new skills, from advertising to video production. She's in charge of all the video that's being taken place here this weekend, managing 2 other hands that are helping her with it as well. So proud of you. I wanted to introduce you to my daughter-in-law. Yes, this is Rachel. Have hope for your kids. And you might want to bring them here. There's all kinds of weddings that happen around here. It's pretty awesome. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. Appreciate it. I'll take that. Or you could put that back. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, well, we're going to have a fun night. It's going to be an intense night. We're going to talk about leadership. We're going to talk about leading a hard people. Because leadership is not easy. It's actually really challenging and really hard. No matter how many people it is that you're leading, whether it is your family, because that for the husbands here, they are the leaders of their household, and their wives are the co-leaders, not in the exact position, but she comes alongside him to follow his leadership and to take that leadership into the kids. It's challenging in any leadership role. Business, being in business and being a leader. Whether you're managing 5 people, or you've got 12 customers, or you've got 12,000 customers, or you've got 120,000 customers, or it's 10,000 distributors, or whatever. Leadership is not easy. And when I've turned to this book, man, I have found so much amazing leadership techniques and tips that just flat out work really, really beautifully. And I was thinking that tonight, it'd be a really good idea if we turn to Numbers chapter 11 and we just dive deep inside of this story, because there's so many powerful principles inside of here. Before I get into the powerful principles that we will all uncover today, because I'm sure you're going to see some things that I don't even see. But before we go there, I want to kind of give you a little bit about my spiritual history and background. I grew up in an atheist home, and an agnostic home. The man that raised me was an atheist, and my mother was agnostic. What does that mean? She believed there was a God, but she didn't know who he or she was. She just believed there was a God, but really wasn't, into the God thing. And sadly, both of them had some pretty dismal experiences with church and church people. And that's what drove the both of them, my father, for example, my stepfather, to be not only an atheist, but to be Christian haters. He absolutely hated Christians. And to be honest with you, he had every right in the world too, because the experiences that he had with religious people. And those experiences soured him and soured his parents. And his parents were the first to be the atheists who passed down that theology down to him. And then that theology he was passing down to his 3 daughters. And so my mom, really for the sake of just not causing conflict, because when conflict happened, fists went flying and teeth went out of the mouth. And so she would do whatever she could to kind of walk on eggshells to not really tip over the apple cart. And so she just pretty much was quiet about it and really didn't say much about it. It's like, yeah, I think there is a God, but whatever. And so that's kind of the house that I was growing up in. God was a cuss word. It wasn't a healthy subject. It wasn't a positive subject. It wasn't about God is love and God is good. None of that at all. They were not the family that went to church, at Christmas and on Easter. That wasn't them. They just were completely out of the whole spiritual, religious kind of world. And so when I was 13 years old, I came home from my 8th grade, school, and found that my stepdad had ransacked my bedroom. He turned everything upside down and inside out, emptied out all my drawers, and he found these love letters from Travis Sluter. Still trying to find that guy. Travis Sluter was his name. And he was a short blonde kid, and we knew each other for like a month, and we were going around together, whatever 8th graders do. And they write love letters to each other, and they try to kiss behind the locker. So anyway, never got there, but we definitely wrote love letters together. So my dad found these love letters, and when I came home off the bus, he freaked out. He was screaming at me like crazy and saying things like, "You're going to end up pregnant just like your mother. I'm taking you out of this school. Who's this guy? You're not going to be a whore." Just going crazy. And said, "You're going to a new school tomorrow where you're going to have to be wearing dresses. There's only 8 kids in your class. You're going to be watched like a hawk." Okay. We had no dresses. I was a full-on jock. I played basketball, I played volleyball, I played softball, I played basketball against guys. Like, I was a full-on tomboy, and they're telling me I'm gonna wear a dress. First of all, how do you walk in that thing? I did not know how to act or sit in any kind of a skirt or dress. You might remember, we didn't go to church, so we never dressed up for anything. So now we have to go to JCPenney's and get some dresses. And what shoes do you wear with that stuff? Can I wear my Converse or my Vans or something, So just so happens at the school that this atheist sent us to, the only private tiny school available in town was a private Christian school. So my very first week, this is October. It's fall, it's beautiful outside. I want you to imagine this, first of all. My parents were heavy-duty pot smokers. Let me ask you a question. How many of you have ever been around somebody that smokes cigarettes? When you sit with somebody or you go into their home and visit them, what do you come out of their home smelling like? You smell like cigarettes, right? You smell exactly like the cigarettes that they're smoking, right? Well, I want you to imagine that my parents drove us to school every day, and they hotboxed us. Does anyone here not know what a hotbox is? Let me educate you on a hotbox. Basically, what a hotbox is the windows are rolled up, and they are smoking a joint. A nice big old fat Cheech and Chong joint. Because at this point, my mom started getting some supplemental income from the terrible thing that happened to her with her neck. So literally, every morning, 7:30 in the morning, 5 days a week, our parents are putting us in the car. They're roasting a big old fatty with the windows up. And our first day of school, we walked on that campus, and can you tell me what we smelled like? We smelled like weed. And it was not legal at that time in California. This was not legal at that time. Totally legal now. It's just wild to me to even say that. So here my parents do illegal drugs, and us kids smell like illegal drugs with our dresses, not knowing how to walk, not knowing how to sit in these dresses. It's like the first time in dresses. It was just odd. Tiny little school. There's 8 kids in my 8th grade class. I think there were 6 in Rhonda's 6th grade class, and even less in Marty's 4th grade class. So we're there, and in the first week there is a chapel, and the chapel was actually in the little church because there were 2 trailers sitting at the church property, and this old musty hard pews. Can you see it? You can smell the mold in the carpet. You know what I mean? It's got water damage. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like one of those starving churches that we see in every small town around the world, I'm sure. So I'm there. I'm sitting in the back. I don't know any of these kids yet. I totally feel like I do not belong here, right? Here's all these church kids that could recite all these Bible verses, and they know how to act, and the girls know how to walk in their dresses. And then there's us that walk like boys wearing a skirt, and we smell like weed. And we have a contact high as we're showing up to school, right? So I'm sitting in the back, and the school principal, her name is Leilani Guido, beautiful little blonde, sweet, precious little woman. And she's teaching out of this book that I don't know what the book is. Do you understand? Like, you grow up with atheists. You don't know what a Bible is. You don't know what God is. You don't know what church is, none of this stuff. And she starts teaching out of this book, and she starts mentioning the name Jesus the Christ. So I hear this message, and for some unknown reason, I start weeping like a baby. And I just start crying and crying and crying, and I cannot figure out why. I cannot stop crying. How embarrassing. I'm the new kid at the school who smells like weed, look like a boy wearing a dress. I don't belong here, okay? And neither do my sisters. Like, this is not our people. Have you ever been to a place like that before where you feel like these are not my people, right? So at the end of the whole thing, everybody's leaving and I'm hiding. I'm sitting like this. I'm so embarrassed because I'm sure I'm red. I'm swollen. There's snot. Like, I'm just sitting hunched over in the chair, the pew in the back, and I'm just sitting like this. And Leilani comes up to me and she says to me, Danette, do you want to meet Jesus? Yes. And she says, can I pray with you? Yes. She said, just pray this after me. And that day, something changed inside of me. I cannot deny the relief that I felt after crying those tears and praying that prayer. I cannot deny that something got woken up inside of my heart. I cannot deny that I felt a flood of love and acceptance and something new. So I end up going home, and of course my parents are trying to kill each other. And they're doing lines and smoking weed and doing what they do, right? Fighting. And I would take my Bible and I would run off into the field. I couldn't read it. I couldn't understand it. I was dyslexic. It was like hard stuff to understand. I couldn't read the names of the people that were in there. I was like, what in the world is that? None of it made sense. But what did make sense, so I sit under a tree with that book opened up, trying to understand it, and just getting frustrated, closing it, and just talking to God. And I really felt his presence. I really felt something that was hard to explain then, but much easier to explain now. Then I met some Christian kids, and that was a great experience. You know, those kids that know how to totally manipulate their parents into thinking that they're really good kids, right? Were any of you those kind of kids? I go, wait a second, is this actually real? This is odd. And then I got pregnant by one of those kids. I got pregnant, and I was the whore. I was the harlot, and I was the one outcasted because, well, his parents were the, good church goers and the church secretary, and my parents were drug addicts, and they didn't go to church. So, of course, we were the 3 little girls that you don't want your kids with. We didn't fit in. Our parents weren't good people, because they didn't go to church. Well, I have to tell you something. My parents had integrity. They weren't trying to pose to be something other than they were. They didn't put on an act in front of people. They had integrity. They were pot-smoking drug addicts. And they were just that way wherever it was that they went, which meant they had integrity versus those that preached this message lived a different life, had skeletons in their closet that they kept hidden, and judged people when somebody made the same mistake they had made. Turned out the pastor had a kid out of wedlock. Turned out that my boyfriend's father had not one but two out of wedlock. One he gave up for adoption. The other he did not even know existed until the kid was 25 years old. And when he knocked on the door, it was obvious. He was the spitting image of his father. So even though they had those things in their background, there was judgment. So I was the harlot, I was the outcast. And I remember looking up to the heavens one day, and I said, God, if I have to be like your people, I want nothing to do with you. Your people, fill in the blanks. Fill in the blanks. I'm out of here. And I went headfirst into the whole metaphysical world. I was that weird chick that had crystals for everything. You see, if you can't sleep, you just have to hold your rosy quartz and your smoky quartz in your hand. You give a few ohms, and you will fastly go to sleep. I was the girl that I burnt sage in my offices on an abalone shell that smells just like weed, by the way. And we would blow this sage in our office before we would have a presentation with prospects and prospective customers would walk into our office and smell like weed. But it wasn't. It was sage. I was that girl that I had crystals all down my neck. I had them in my pockets. I surrounded myself with malachite because it's good for making money, and you can somehow draw money to yourself by carrying this rock with you. I spent thousands of dollars on psychics, tarot card readers, and palm readers. Thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. In fact, I paid a woman $1,500 a month to chant for me every single day in front of her huge, what are those purple ones? Amethysts. She had these huge amethyst rocks, and she would go and she would light candles and chant for me. I spent $1,500 on a 1-900 psychic line to find out what my unborn child was, to find out if it was a boy or if it was a girl. You'll never guess what happened. $1,500 later, guess what? I kept a log of how many said boy, how many said girl. Well, half of them were wrong, and half of them were right. Literally, half of them said boy, half of them said girl. $1,500. How many of you remember those 1-900 lines? Yeah, $1,500 in a month, in a single month, $1,500 trying to find out what the sex of my child was. So I was like really super into this whole metaphysical thing until I came to a place where I became very, very empty, and I felt afflicted with the spirit of fear. You see, I'd become very, very powerful with my mind and being able to control fear and control my emotions, but all of a sudden it was almost like something jumped on top of me and I couldn't get rid of it. It was like a physical presence of fear where I just felt darkness all around me, and I started to put my affairs in order, and I was going to run to Italy with my daughter at this point. I was going to leave my boyfriend, who is now my husband, leave my friends, leave my company, give it all to them, and I'm out of here. I was completely afflicted with this fear, and I could sense that something bad was going to happen. Once that happened, Hans and I took off to Hawaii to go on a quick vacation for my birthday. This is March 2nd of 1993. His best friend picks us up from the airport and encourages us to go to church with him that night. First of all, I can't believe that he went to church, and so I start just dropping F-bombs out of my mouth left and right, because that was my common language. You have to imagine I learned that language in the house that I grew up in. So I'm dropping F-bomb after F-bomb and talking about those blankety-blank religious people that I don't want anything to do with. And long and the short of it is they're like, dude, chill out, man. Like Damien, which was Hans's mentor from martial arts, who was a multimillionaire, his wife died. They're inviting us to go to church. We're going to church in honor of her. She died 3 weeks ago. I'm like, oh, whatever. So we end up showing up, and it's hot, and it's nasty, and there's this African-American, and actually he was like Puerto Rican, African-American preacher good-looking guy, and this guy is just like going for it, and I'm just sitting there going, oh my gosh, look at all these stupid people getting all excited about what he's saying. I got my arms crossed, got my feet up in front of me, and I'm the rudest guest that you could ever invite to go anywhere. Could you imagine bringing a friend? Could you imagine bringing your girlfriend? And she's got her arms crossed, her feet on the chair in front, and she's just snarling at everybody, looking around. Gosh, so stupid. As I'm talking under my breath. How rude, right? How mean. But that was me. So, halfway through it, I start to hear this thing inside my spirit that says, hey man, you're going to get some bad karma, which is the law of reaping and sowing. And I'm like, gosh, I'm going to have 10 jerks in my next First Steps to Success seminar because of the seed I'm sowing in this place right here, right now. So I sit forward, I say, give me a piece of paper and a pen. And so Hans, like Damien, passes one down. I get, all right, fine, I'm going to start sowing some good karma. Man, that's good stuff. Hans elbows me, he's like, dude, you teach that at First Steps. I effing know, man. I didn't know that was in the effing Bible. Could you imagine sitting in a church and hearing chatter in the back and hearing someone drop F-bombs right next to the Bible? It is amazing that a lightning bolt did not strike me and kill me there. But I'm like, effing A, man. That S is good. This went on for like 20 minutes. His best friend would say, dude, you teach it at First Steps. I have been That's some cool S. I'm taking notes. At the very end of the message, he invited everybody to stand up, that if they wanted to make their life right with God, something lifts me up out of my seat. I stand on my feet. And there I am again, bawling as I'm saying a prayer that he's leading. That night, March 2nd, 1993, I rededicated my life to my Messiah, and I have been walking with my Father in heaven because of his Son that he sent with a message for me and everybody else in this place. "1993 was a long time ago, and I can tell you I've made a lot of stupid mistakes since that time. I made a mess in our marriage. I made a mess in our finances. I made a mess as a mother. But all in all of the messes, I have felt the redeeming love of my Father, who that when I turn from my wickedness, he is there always with open arms saying, come on, baby. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. That's not who you are. You're my daughter. You're a daughter of a king, and I've washed you clean. Now step up, rise up, and do something great with your life. So that's my journey, part of it. And the next part of it is that once I rededicated my life, I was a businesswoman. I was doing First Steps to Success, a little bit different content back then. I will not put crystals in your hand anymore, now that I understand where they came from. They came from the earth. Anyway, it's just not a good idea to worship rocks. I'll just say that. It's called idolatry. Not a good idea to hire psychics, whether they're in your church or at a 900 line. It's just not a good idea. But anyway, so one of the 10 commandments, you shall have no other gods before me. And I thought I was one. It's okay. Some of you think you are too. But anyway, I got a little bit confused after I had committed my life to his ways. And being a businesswoman and being a speaker, right away, my head just played this track for me. It's like, oh, maybe I'm called to full-time ministry. Because you would hear that. You go to a church and all of a sudden this full-time ministry keeps getting talked about as though that's like a different thing than what everybody does every single day. Even though when you read the Bible, there was no such thing as full-time ministry. The way people lived was they lived for God or they didn't live for God. And so if they had sheep, they lived for God with their sheep. If they had cattle, they lived for God with their cattle. They lived for God in everything that they do, like Abraham. Daniel, who was a political advisor. And so when I would read the book, once God totally helped me to understand and see some of this stuff, and I got completely delivered by the way of dyslexia, and I read perfectly now, and I read every day, and I read a lot every single day, and I have no problem even reading in front of other people, which is amazing. I used to sweat and stutter in high school having to read, something from a history book, but now I have no problem reading, which is amazing that you can actually get set free from the bondage of dyslexia and the learning disabilities perhaps that you've been labeled with. Those things can come off as they've come off of me, and now I'm an avid studier of this. I'm actually now going through, I just opened my Bible this morning to Numbers 11, so that's what we're going to talk about today, because this is where I read today, and so I'm going through, this is my 16th time. So I've read it cover to cover 15 times, and this is number 17. I already did number 16 so far this year, and number 17 by the end of the year I'll read it. Why? I think it's the greatest book that's ever been written. I think it has so much wisdom in it. But I became very confused. But when I would start to read this, I would see, wait a second, Abraham was a wealthy businessman, and so was his sons. Jacob was a very wealthy businessman. They had a family business, and it was a generational family business. And so I would see things like Daniel as a political advisor and not a religious guy. He loved God, and he was willing to sacrifice his life for his love for his God. And God used him to bring a nation that didn't know him to know him. So I saw that without Daniel going to seminary, or is it cemetery? He didn't, and same with John the Baptist, man, a full-on tree-hugging, bug-eating, honey-licking hippie who was supposed to be next in line to be the high priest. Nope, sorry, I'm out. He was a full-on PK, and he's like, I'm out of here. He goes off, and he hugs some trees, eats some bugs, and licks some honey, and calls people out on their stuff. And wow, he didn't go to seminary to learn how to baptize people. This is John the Baptist we're talking about. He didn't have a degree in theology. He's a tree-hugging, honey-licking hippie. That's what he was. So I would see these guys who led masses of people that didn't go to seminary, who didn't have a degree in theology and didn't start a church at all, yet they had a massive impact on the world. And so I started to look at this corporate structure that our modern day church has created, all in good, probably all for the right reasons, all for the right heart. But back in these days, Abraham got elevated to his high position because of his morals, because of his values, because of the way that he lived and the way that he wanted to honor and know his God. And so we're going to turn to Numbers chapter 11, because inside of here, we're going to learn about a guy who also did not go to seminary. He didn't go to a school of worship. He didn't go to a school of ministry. He didn't have a Bible, because they didn't have them back then. The book actually did not exist. Abraham didn't have the book. There weren't worship sets. There wasn't any of that. None of that structure at all. But yet there was truth that these men lived by, truth that they led their wives to live by. And when you take some of the religiosity off of the book, you get to learn how to live in right standing between your God and man, and how to get blessed. There literally is formulas in the book on how to be blessed. And so I've studied those things, and I would love to give them over to you. Okay? So I am not the holier than thou person. I am as sinful and disgusting and wicked and evil as everybody else in this room. And all of our righteousness is nothing but filthy, nasty, bloody rags. That's all it is. In my opinion, none of us are worthy of what we think we should get. In fact, I certainly haven't had to pay for all the sin and all the mistakes and all the wickedness I have done. Nor do I expect anybody else to have to pay for their wickedness or evil that they have done. I much rather them know a loving God who is rich in mercy, slow to anger, gracious and compassionate. I much rather people know about a gracious and compassionate God, that in the midst of all of my disgustingness, I told you my story this morning, in the midst of what? doing a line of cocaine, sleeping around with all kinds of people for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's how I survived. It's how I ate. That in the midst of offering my body as a prostitute for another line of cocaine, after being offered a full spread in Penthouse magazine, a $25,000 shoot in Penthouse magazine, and thank God I said no. I had a $35,000 debt. You know I was this close to saying yes to that. You know why I didn't? Because I figured that my pastor was a secret porn guy, and I knew my dad bought that magazine, and I didn't want to give him the pleasure. That's why I said no. That was God protecting my future. Protecting my future. So, in the midst of all that nastiness, whose voice says, pick up your mat and walk? You see, that's the God I know. I don't know what God you know, but if it's the God that condemns you when you're down, I'm so sorry, I don't find that one in that book. But when people have walked off track, well, you're left up to your own demise and your own consequences for your own actions. That's how it works. There's consequences for our wickedness, period, end of story. And so how is it that the creator of the heavens and the earth, who sees a woman who just offered her body as a prostitute for cocaine, who's frustrated and goes and dives underneath a wave and says, pick up your mat and walk? Not knowing that that was a scripture in the Bible, because it is a scripture in the Bible. So that's the God I know. He's the God of Israel. He's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He's the God of Moses. He's the God of Joshua, of Joseph. He's the God of Daniel and Jeremiah, of Amos, Habakkuk, Hosea. He's the God of Queen Esther. He's the God of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. He's the God that sent his son, Jesus, his Hebrew name, because he's a Jew, Yeshua, that gave his life as a sin offering for us. That's the God that I know. That's the God that wrote that book, all penned by Jewish hands. A Jewish story, a history to show who he is, how he loves, and how he leads, and how we should lead the people that we are responsible to lead. So let's go to Numbers chapter 11. How many of you are in some kind of a leadership role? Well, this message is for you. How many of you found that leadership sometimes is hard? How many of you have been beaten up by the sheep that you're leading? The sheeples. You've been beaten up. Anybody been stabbed in the back? Anybody try so hard to do what's right and yet still be misunderstood? How many of you tried so hard to be like the perfect parent and you still have screwed up? And or you've been misunderstood, misjudged? How many of you have been in that position where you've worked so hard to train up the people that are around you? You've poured your life into helping people succeed and believing in them when they didn't believe in themselves. And then all of a sudden they turn around and they're griping at you, griping at each other, and whining and complaining. Anybody? Is there anybody here who's ever started a business and offered jobs to people? Wave at me if you've started a business and offered jobs to people. And so you take a risk on somebody and you offer them an opportunity. And all they do is murmur and complain about their job. All they do is do the least amount that they can do so they don't get fired. And you end up paying them the least so they don't quit. Who's ever been in this position before? It's exhausting, isn't it? It's disheartening, isn't it? Well, guess what? Moses found himself in the same exact place. So check this out. It's amazing. So who's Moses? His real name is Moshe. Can you say Moshe? Moshe is his real name, right? He's a Hebrew guy. And Moshe actually was born during a time where Pharaoh became very threatened. Pharaoh was a king of Egypt, became very, very threatened by the children of Israel. Now, how in the world did the children of Israel ever end up in Egypt? That is a beautiful, amazing financial story all in itself. all kinds of wealth principles that are in the story of Joseph that we don't have time to get into right now. I did a whole study on it. If you want a copy of it, it's called Spirit-Driven Success. There's a couple chapters in there about Joseph alone from a business perspective, from a leadership and a finance perspective. Again, that training is called Spirit-Driven Success. There's audio and there's a book. I would recommend both because some is in one and some is in the other. So Joseph ends up, he's a brother. He's one of 12. His brothers hate him. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go here. I am so going to go here. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go here. Okay, let me tell you something. Okay, how many of you have ever had a dream? How many of you have ever had somebody confirm that dream in you? Do you know what I mean? They say, you know, I see you, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And it confirms the dream, the vision that you have. Have you ever had that happen to you? Okay, awesome. So there's Jacob, different guy, okay? Yaakov, can you say Yaakov? That's how you say it. You're speaking Hebrew. Good job. That book was written in Hebrew. That book was written in Hebrew. Not Greek first, Hebrew. So here, Yaakov is Abraham's grandson. So there's Abraham. Abraham has Isaac. Abraham is an old fart, man. And his wife, she's so old. And she never had a kid, which meant that her womb was like mummy dust. Okay? Cobwebs. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's just like cobwebs, mummy dust. Like, she ain't having no babies. It's just not happening, okay? It ain't working at all. They've been married forever, and she never conceived a child, and God promised that she would have a child. She laughs. God says, dude, why'd you laugh? Is anything too hard for me? She says, I didn't laugh. She lies to God. I didn't laugh. Oh, she was sinless. She lies. And a year later, she has a son, and the name of the son is called Laughter. Isaac. Yitzhak. Try it. You're speaking Hebrew. I'm so proud of you. Okay, so anyway, Yitzhak is born. He then, his dad makes a commitment to find him a wife from another land. He doesn't want his son to marry a Canaanite woman. So here they go. They find a wife, and the wife's name is Rivka. Okay? So she's barren for a little bit. They end up having twins, Esau and Jacob. And there's a kind of a lie and some stealing that happens with these two twins. And so the weaker son that did all the lying and the cheating and the stealing ends up running away to his uncle's house and meets a woman that he falls in love with instantly, and her name is Rachel. Okay? And so his father-in-law cheats him because he cheated his brother, right? You reap what you sow. So Jacob cheated his brother out of his birthright, and then Laban, his uncle, cheats Jacob with, on the wedding night, not giving Rachel, but giving her older sister Leah. And he worked 7 years for Rachel. He had to work another 7 years. So he gets Leah, the one he didn't want. And he's like, I only wanted one wife. Anyway, he ended up with two. He ended up working for his father-in-law for 20-something years. Finally gets released, goes off to his own land, and he ends up having 12 sons with actually 4 wives. 2 concubines, 2 wives. So now they have these 12 sons, and Jacob has a vision. And the vision that he has, and the word that he hears from God is this: I am going to bring kings from your loins. I'm going to bring kings and princes from your loins. He has his favorite son by his wife, Rachel, who was barren for a long time. He thinks, my son Joseph, my favorite son, that's going to be one of the kings. So he puts together a beautiful, colorful coat for his son. He makes sure that his son doesn't work in the fields. He makes sure the son is really well protected. He creates division between his favorite youngest, second youngest son and the older sons. it's very clear that dad doesn't like the other 10 children that came from Leah and the concubines. And that these 2 sons that Rachel had, those are his favorites. But Joseph is the one that he really has chosen. So he makes this decorated coat. Just kind of like you and me, we have a dream. And we start to make it happen. Do you know how many years before a king came from Jacob's loins? Do you know how many years before that dream, that vision came to pass? 1,000 years. 1,000 years. Jacob tried to make it happen. Just like Abraham tried to make it happen. When Abraham got the vision that he was going to have a son, Sarah got impatient. She's, pushing 80. She's barren. They want to rush it. Here's my maidservant. Sleep with her and we'll have a son by her. Well, they did. His name was Ishmael. And there's been war between Ishmael and Isaac ever since. The Arabs and the Jews. Still fighting. So, and one fighting for a birthright. One protecting their birthright. So, 1,000 years. Jacob has a dream. Kings are going to come from your loins. He has this favorite son by his favorite wife. This must be him. I'm going to set him apart to make him look like one. Which only results in something bad. His brothers hated him, threw him in a pit, faked to death, slaughtered a lamb, put the lamb's blood all over the coat, tore up all the coat, brought the coat back to daddy and said, we don't know what happened. We found this coat. A lion must have taken him. What really happened was they threw him in a pit. He screamed all night. Some traders came. They sold their brother to these traders. The traders took him to Egypt. While he was in Egypt, he suffered greatly, falsely accused. But no matter what he did, he prospered. And the Bible says it's because he honored God. He honored God in everything that he did. So God prospered him even in a prison. So then eventually he is being able to discern people's dreams. The Pharaoh is tormented with the dream. Joseph interprets the dream. Joseph then gets promoted second in command of the entire nation, from a prison, falsely accused, to second in command of the entire nation, the most powerful nation of all of the world at that time, which was Egypt. So, while Joseph was in his nice little coat, favored by his daddy with no calluses on his hands, he had 2 dreams. One, that 12 sheaves, each one representing the family, that they would all bow down to him. And he told his brothers and his dad the dream. Then he had another dream, that the stars and the moon would all bow down to him. That was the dream. So he told everybody about the dream. And then they threw him in a pit. The dream provoked even more anger, more rage. They sell him off. He heads over to Egypt. He is there for 17 years. 17 years. The day comes that there is a famine. His brother is second in command. They come to try to buy food. Long of the story short, Joseph recognizes his brothers. They end up being reconciled. Because Joseph had prospered so greatly he prospered Egypt so greatly and helped them escape the famine. He prospered in the famine. When the whole land was desolate, he made the king very, very wealthy and even more powerful. So here they are. They're there to buy food. Long and the short of it is that the Pharaoh says, move your family here. They gave him the best land as they were sheep herders. And this is how Israel, which were 12 sons, a man's name, Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, moves his whole family. They were 77 when they moved there, something like that. Yeah, it was 77 when they moved there. And now, several generations pass, about 400 years. Now there's a change of hands of a couple different pharaohs, and the Israelites have prospered greatly. Their women are kicking out kids like this. Their cows are kicking out kids like this. Their sheep are kicking out kids. Everything the Israelites touch, it prospers like crazy. And the Pharaoh becomes afraid and says that if our enemy came against us, the Israelites would side with them and overtake us all. So let's enslave them. They've become too great in number, too prosperous. Let's enslave them. So that's how they ended up there. So 400 years goes by, and now Pharaoh doesn't like these people. They have enslaved them. And now Pharaoh says, kill all the sons 2 years old and younger. So he told the midwives that when you go with these Israelite women, kill the son. Let the daughter live, but kill the son as soon as the son is born. The women couldn't do it. So they went back and they said, those Israelite women are way too strong. They're having babies before we even get there. That's what they told the king. They're giving birth before we even get there. So Moses' mother, after she has him, she hides him for about 3 months. And then she can't hide him anymore. She puts him in a wicker basket, sends him down the river, and sends his sister along to watch. The baby runs into the princess, Pharaoh's daughter. She takes the baby out, calls him Moshe, which means, because I've drawn him out of the water. And Miriam, his sister, runs, grabs the mother, and the mother actually gets to nurse her own son, and his life was preserved. For 40 years, he was raised as a prince of Bel-Air. The kid is raised as Pharaoh's grandson, spoiled, rotten, all the delicacies, all the fine foods, all the fine clothing, the gold, the silver, the palace, the whole thing. He's got all the video games. He got a car when he was 16. It was a Ferrari. Okay, do you understand? Like, he hung out with all the cool kids and all the rich kids. Do you understand? So he grew up super rich, super blessed. You know, the family are in politics, right? So they got lots of power. They're on TV all the time, right? Do you hear me? Okay. So that's the first 40 years of his life. He sees somebody mistreating an Israelite. He ends up killing the guy that does, buries the guy, leaves. The next day he comes out to the Israelites and they go, oh, are you going to kill us too? Who do you think you are? He flees out of fear. He runs away off into the land and he becomes a sheep herder for the next 40 years. So look, raised in a palace, rich, Ferraris, women, whatever he wants, all the rich food that he wants. 2, peasant life, becoming a sheep herder, marries a woman who is the same, learns how to do this whole sheep thing for 40 solid years. So now he's 80 years old and he has a full-on acid trip out in the hot sun one day. I just want to see if anyone's awake. He has a full-on acid trip right in the middle of the day, and all of a sudden he sees a bush, and the bush is not being overcome, and there's fire on it, and this fire is just going, and all of a sudden a voice is, have any of you ever dropped acid? Kind of sounds like an acid trip, doesn't it? It totally sounds like an acid trip. We're looking at a bush, it's on fire, and the fire is not consuming the bush, like, wow. And the bush starts talking to you. It's pretty much an acid trip to me, man. So anyway, the bush starts talking, and God tells him, I'm going to send you off back to Egypt. I've heard the cry of my people. I'm sending you back there, and I want you to tell Pharaoh to let my people go. Okay, so they do this. There's 10 plagues. It finally happens. Pharaoh then reaps what he sown with killing the babies. God then smite all the kids where the families did not put blood over their doorposts. This is the first Passover. It's called Pesach. Can you say Pesach? Speaking Hebrew, you're so good. Anyway, they took the blood of the lamb over the doorpost, and when God came to smite the houses that did not have the blood over them, it wasn't the devil. It doesn't say the devil in there. It says God, when he came to smite the children, then the ones that had the blood of the lamb over their doorposts, those families were protected, and the ones that didn't, those families died. Why? Because you reap what you sow. You reap what you sow. It's a universal law. None of us are getting out of this life without having to reap what we sow, eat what we cook. get what we handed out. It's just life. The older you get, hopefully you start handing out more good things versus more bad things. So that brings us to where we're at. They leave in the middle of the night after they have some lamb and some bread and some bitter herbs, and they leave, and now they're out in the wilderness, and they are the children of Israel who begged God to send a deliverer, who begged God to set them free, to take them out of oppression. Now they're out of oppression. Now they're free. They're out in the wilderness, and that brings us to Numbers chapter 11. There was your quick book of Genesis, book of Exodus, a little bit of Leviticus, and now we're in Numbers. Okay? Yeah, you just traveled through a few hundred years, actually probably 1,000 years. Yeah, we just traveled through 1,000 years, right? Okay, so let me tell you something. There's a reason why I went back there. Jacob had a dream 1,000 years before a king came out of his loins. Joseph had a dream that his brothers would bow down to him, that his brothers and his parents would bow down to him. He has this dream. What followed the dream? Suffering. Suffering followed the dream. Here's another thing. Did the dream turn out exactly how Jacob thought it would turn out, that kings will come from your loins? Nope, not at all. Kings will come from your loins. He's like, there's the king. He's going to be King Joseph. Didn't turn out the way Jacob thought it was going to turn out. What am I telling you? Don't hold so tightly to your dreams to turn out exactly how you want them to turn out. And don't be surprised when suffering follows the vision. Because Joseph had to go through a refining process of being thrown in a pit, completely rejected by his brothers, then falsely accused while he was in Egypt, was a slave in Egypt, was imprisoned in Egypt. To then, why was his brothers coming? They were begging for forgiveness, is what they were doing. Do not be surprised when your vision and your dream is followed by suffering. It's part of the refinement process. Joseph had to be refined. He was a prideful, spoiled, rotten brat. Daddy spoiled him rotten. So that refining process had to get that spoiled brat out of him. He needed to be humbled in order to be able to brainchild saving not just one nation, but he preserved his own nation. The children of Israel, he preserved them. So there was a learning process that had to happen that comes with every vision. Every vision comes with persecution. Every vision comes with adversity. Every vision, every dream comes with opposition. That is not there to make you quit. That is there to prepare you, strengthen you, build wisdom into you, and most of all, more than anything that I find in that book, is to humble your butt. Is to humble your sassy self. How do I know that? It says it loud and clear. That I, the high and lofty one, says Yahweh, his Hebrew name, by the way, that's his name. I, the high and lofty one, live with the lowly and contrite in heart. I will tear down the proud and lift up the humble. So a vision comes different than what you think it's going to look like. And when you dig your heels in the ground and you're holding on tight to the way you want it to look, you screw the whole thing up. You screw the whole thing up. You get a vision in part. You get a dream in part. And when you think that God told you something, I mean, come on, look at it. Did Jacob die a liar? There could have been some of his friends that thought he was cuckoo, man. Where's your king that came out of your loins? Right? Right? He never saw it. But did it happen? Yes. Both King Saul and King David came from Jacob's loins. Tribe of Benjamin, tribe of Judah. Those were two of his sons. All the kings of Israel came from Jacob's loins. All right, so here we go. Chapter 11, verse 1. And it came to be when the people were as complainers. Underline that word, please. It's underlined in my Bible. And it came to be when the people were as complainers, it was evil. Underline that one too. In the ears of Yahweh. Wow. We could just stop right there and end the night. And it came to be when the people, now look, the people cried out for years, please save us, deliver us from our oppression. We want to be free. We want to go to our own land. Please help us, please help us. He does. And within days, they're complaining. Where's the fish? I want my leeks and garlic. We had so much meat when we were in Egypt. Why did you bring us out here only to kill us? It was better when we lived there. It was better when we lived in bondage. It was better when we were suffering over there. Did you bring us here just to kill us? These are the kind of complaining that they did. And it came to be when the people were as complainers. Did you underline that word? And it was what? Evil. In the what? Ears. Wow. So he hears complaining. He hears complaining. You know, that's one of the things that I taught my kids not to do after reading that. Where does complaining come from? Come on, let's talk about this. Say what? Ungratefulness. Somebody says ungrateful. So a lack of gratitude is where complaining comes from. Where else would complaining come from? Entitlement. Let's write all this down, folks. Let's really dig into this. So entitlement, ungratefulness, what else? We think we know better. We think we know better. What do you mean, parents? Where are you? I can't see your mouth. Who's talking? Hi. I was like not looking far enough. So you said from our parents? From our parents grumbling, and then we learn how to grumble from them? Yeah, it's very true. How many of your parents complained a lot? Wow. Did any of you pick up that skill from them? If you picked up that skill from them, I'd highly recommend you drop it. Highly recommend you drop that skill. Because it's bad. Okay, so we have entitlement, picked it up from other people. Ungratefulness, what else? Displaced expectations, which is entitlement. Same as entitlement. Greed, yep, insatiability. The definition of greed is never being satisfied. So greed will produce complaining. Never being satisfied produces complaining. So greed is absolutely, by the way, and the Bible says that greed is idolatry. Greed is idolatry. Okay, but yes, lust. Lusting for something. Lust isn't just about sex. You can lust for food, you can lust for alcohol, you can lust for entertainment, you can lust for position and fame and power. You can lust for the things of the Bible. Okay, fear. How would fear cause you to complain? True. Yeah, so fear could be another reason that produces complaining. Judgment. Yeah, that's a good one. Tell me how judgment would produce complaining. Mm-hmm. Yep. Amen. So she says judgment. Like we're pointing our finger to what somebody else is or is not doing, and it leads to complaining about what they are not doing. And not doing for what? For me. Selfishness. Because we like to lie and manipulate. Yeah, we lie and manipulate. We're not transparent and honest, so we say we want it for them, but in all reality, we want them to do it for us. And there's an expectation there. So it's selfishness. Selfishness and pride leads to complaining. Unforgiveness. Tell me how. Yeah. If I haven't forgiven somebody, then I'm going to be pretty incessant about my complaining about them and how they need to change, what they need to do different, how they need to live up to the expectations that I want them to live up to, so I can look good in all reality, right? Why do we want our kids to do good? You know, there are some parents that they push their kids almost to heart attacks and nervous breakdowns in college because the parent wants to say, my kid graduated with honors for such and such college, so that at the next family reunion they could brag on their kid. Pride, selfishness, ego. Vanity. This is all the root of complaining. Yeah, self-pity, that's a pretty one. Narcissism. All of that is narcissism, everything that we just said. Yeah, laziness too, which is all selfishness as well. Okay, so look, and it came to be when the people were as complainers, it was evil in the ears of Yahweh, and Yahweh heard it. That sends us a little thing up my spine. And he heard it, and his displeasure burned. We reap what we sow. We reap what we sow. So when we're selfish or greedy, judgmental, unforgiving, when we are filled with pride and arrogance and ego, we will complain. We will complain. And when we complain, who hears it? He hears it. He hears it when we complain. So, number one, I made sure to teach my kids not to complain. And on the flip side, I taught my kids gratitude over and over again. Thankful. You have to teach people to say thank you, because for some reason it does not come natural. And when people do not have a heart of gratitude, they naturally will complain, feel entitled, feel cheated, feel left out, will be resentful. They naturally will do these things. So which character trait do we want to develop in the people that are around us? Gratitude is what we want to develop, especially in our children, especially in our marriage, and it has to start with us. It starts with us. My sweet, amazing husband was one who would never eat leftovers. Hans was 18 when he moved in with me, and I'm a gourmet cook. I had some people at my house who were in this room recently, as of last weekend and a couple of weeks ago, and they got spoiled rotten with food. Meal after meal, homemade breads, like 4 of them last weekend. I made 4 homemade loaves of bread in a 24-hour period. So good. And hearing the thank yous is beautiful and wonderful, but watching their eyes roll back in their head is even better. That's the best part. But my husband was one that would be like, nope, doesn't do leftovers. It was really kind of nice. And that kind of made the war on debt thing a little challenging, that he just would not eat leftovers. And recently he's like, Danny, he goes, I keep getting on the scale, and the scale keeps saying the same thing to me. I'm like, what is the scale saying? You too fat. And Hans is not at all. Like, he is very beautifully built. He's very fit. But as he's gotten older, he loves junk food. He's always been a junk food guy. I've always been the one to eat really healthy, yet he still stays really fit, and I have to work for every inch that I have, or that I don't have. I have to work for it. So, nonetheless, recently, I was out of town, and he decided that the scale kept telling him, you're too fat. So he's making a decision. I got to do something about this. I need to start eating healthy. And he figured, you know what? When Danny travels, I just always eat hamburgers, and I go through drive-thrus, and he does that often anyway, even when I am home. And so he decided, and somehow he clicked on something on Facebook, and he found one of those ads that delivers food to your house that is healthy. Right? $99, you get 8 meals, and it's a balanced meal, and you could get a keto meal, you could get a paleo meal that he knows nothing about either one of those meals. Okay? And I feed us on a 50% carb, 30% protein, and 20% fats. And that's how we stay whatever way we stay. But when Hans goes off and he does his own thing, he's eating 2,000 calories in one lunch. And most of it is fat and carbs, right? None of it is healthy and none of it is good. But when he gets on the scales, you too fat. He says, my jeans are saying the same thing, you too fat. He's like, I'm so uncomfortable. My shirt is touching my belly. Usually my chest can hide my belly. You too fat. So he's on Facebook one day and click, he hits one of those things. Bam, he orders these 8 meals for $99. Like, but Danny, listen. Look, we'll actually save money. Look, your time at the grocery store, your time in cooking. He almost has me convinced to do this thing. Honey, you've been cooking for us for 28 years. You don't need to cook it. We're financially independent. Come on, let these people cook for us. He almost has me in. So there I am. I'm doing my research. And I'm analyzing and I'm calculating, calculating. And I went, he's eating leftovers. He's eating leftovers and he doesn't even realize it. And they're not even good leftovers. So then I say, hey, listen, how about you let me be the service and I'll make you those meals. So right before I came here, after cooking for a lot of people, I ended up cooking up 12 meals, all packed for him while I'm gone. All perfectly done according to the macronutrients it needs to be, okay? The reason why I'm telling you this story is I forgot. Gratitude, thank you. There is a point to this story. So I just got off, it was entertaining, but I just got off the phone. By the way, he has dropped 12 pounds of fat and gained 9 pounds of muscle in 90 days. He's beautiful. So now I just got off the phone with him. I said, hey, how was your lunch? He's like, oh, honey, thank you. Like, I am getting thanked. Like, you cannot imagine. And when somebody has that kind of gratitude, it makes you want to bless them more. And when there is not gratitude, you want to punch them in the face. Have you ever noticed that? So when you are not grateful, first of all, you're sowing a lack of gratitude and you're sowing complaints. You're going to reap the same thing back to you. And so before, Hans was like, I'm not going to eat that. Now that I'm making him food and he's lost all that pounds of fat and gained all those pounds of muscle, it's like, oh, thank you. He feels better. He's not being tempted by the stupid sausage McMuffin at McDonald's that you can get 24 hours a day now. Because he can. He's not tempted by the Covers. By the way, have you ever been to Covers? Don't go. It's here in Chicago. They have it here in Chicago. Don't go. Don't go. Anyway, it's a butter burger, and they're so freaking good. They fry their burger in butter. Like, there's no better way to have a burger. So don't go to Covers, please. Okay, so listen. So when you complain, you're going to reap complaints. You're going to reap the pain of it, and he hears our complaints. But what I can tell you is that gratitude opens the vault to blessing in the heavens. I really believe that. I've seen it over and over again. It changes your perspective instantly. We taught our kids, and I worked on them so hard about being thankful. Thank you, Mom, for dinner. Thank you for how hard you're working. Thank you, Dad, for what you do for us. We had our recent last family meeting, and we meet with our kids once a year about legacy and teaching them financial concepts and having a family balance sheet meeting about how the family is doing collectively, a balance sheet, what our assets and our liabilities are as a complete family. And it's amazing to me, our son Cabe, who I worked the hardest on to teach gratitude, and he then took the baton and he did that with his brothers, that anytime anyone could complain about something that was on their plate, he'd be like, thank you, Mom, for working so hard to cook dinner. So I hear him even say these things when his wife does something that he really appreciates, that he offers that gratitude. But after that family office meeting, Cabe was like bursting inside, saying thank you to his dad for caring about their future. Gratitude takes you from a place of victimhood into a place of a kingship, of royalty. Ungratitude makes you a pauper. And so many parents don't teach their kids how to be grateful for everything that they have, for the bed that they sleep in. This is another reason why we took our kids to foreign countries, to third world countries, to sleep in an orphanage with orphans. Why? Because they need to see what kind of a real bed most people sleep on around the world. They need to experience what those kids were getting served, rice and beans every day to eat. And have their brain see, man, I'm eating. How grateful. So when they come home and they experience the life that they had, it was a very different thing. So our Father in heaven, the creator of the heavens and the earth, he is a parent. He's a father. So can you tell me how you feel when your kids complain, or when your employees complain, or your customers complain? Can you tell me how you feel? When your wife or your husband complains, can you tell me how it makes you feel? Come on. Yeah, ticked off, disappointed, unappreciated. Does it motivate you to want to work harder for them? Not at all. Not at all. So it frustrates you. So how much more does it frustrate him? So here there's an entire people who beg for him to give deliverance. He does, and what do? They complain how it's done. Why? They had a vision of freedom. It wasn't turning out the way they thought it was supposed to. Let's keep going. His displeasure burned, and the fire of Yahweh burned among them and consumed those in the outskirts of the camp. And the people cried out to Moshe, and Moshe prayed to Yahweh, and the fire died down. Then he called the name of the place Taverah, because the fire of Yahweh had burned among them. And the mixed multitude who were in their midst lusted greatly. So the children of Israel also wept again and said, who is giving us meat to eat? A bunch of people just died because they reap what they sowed. They cry out to the leader, hey, help! Help! We're dying! He helps. And then there they are again, lusting for something they did not have. They rather be in bondage and taste meat than be free and trust God. We remember the fish which we ate without cost in Mitzrayim, the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, the garlic. But now our being is dried up. There is naught to look at but this manna. Now the manna was like coriander seed, and its appearance like the appearance of bdellium. The people went about and gathered it, ground it on a millstone, and beat it into mortar, and cooked it in a pot, and made cakes of it. And its taste was the taste of cakes baked with oil. And when the dew fell on the camp at the night, the manna fell on it. And Moshe heard the people weeping throughout their clans, each man at the door of his tent, and the displeasure. Can you feel your red butt? A spanking is about to happen. And the displeasure of Yahweh burned exceedingly. That means red butt. Have you ever had your parents' displeasure burn against you? And his eyes, and in the eyes of Moshe, it was evil. Now here's my second point. So here is a leader leading a people he did not want to lead. It's very clear in the Bible. Moshe did not want this job. He told God he didn't want the job. He said, send someone else. That when the burning acid trip bush thing happened, he said, dude, I can't talk right. I'm not the guy for the job. I hate Egypt. I don't want to meet Pharaoh. I don't like those Israelites. I know they're my brothers, but no, thank you. Pick someone else. Have you ever been in a job that you don't like? Oh. How many of you have complained in the job you don't like? Do you know what happens after you complain in the job you don't like? You tend to lose it. So the guy is leading a people, 2 million of them to be exact, that he doesn't want to lead. And check this out. So look at this. The displeasure of Yahweh burned exceedingly, and in the eyes of Moshe it was evil. This is my favorite part of this segment. So Moshe said to Yahweh, Thou art Lord, God of the heavens and the earth. I come before you now in holiness. Nope, that's not what it says. Holy God in the heavens, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done. Nope, that's not what it says. We had this young man on our team. He was very creative. He was a gorgeous young kid, very creative. And he was super athletic, totally well put together, super cool. He was a drummer and a graphic artist. And our team gathers together and we pray. And the first time I heard this young man pray, I almost busted a gut laughing. And that was not a good idea. Because talking to this kid, he's like, yeah, dude, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, then check this out. It was so awesome. And then we start to pray. Oh, Lord, in heaven. I was like, I had to open my eyes and go, who the hell is that? Because he all of a sudden turned into some stiff thing that was reciting some ice cold thing that didn't sound anything like him at all. How many of you have ever been around people like that? You know what that is? Fake. As though God cannot see the act. As though God can't hear the act. That now that I pray, I'm going to act like something else. I remember when I first started going back to a church after I rededicated my life to my God, and hearing these pastors preach, doing their very best, and everything was hallelujah, praise the Lord, can I get an amen? And I just sat there and I went, do you say that to your wife in the bedroom? Because if you do, chances are you are not going forth and multiplying. Chances are it ain't working. And you look like you could need some right now. I would look at these people I go to church with and go, man, they are so boring. What a boring life. Is that what it means to serve God, is to be boring, disconnected, speak a different language that no one else can understand? Is that what that means? When I read this book, I don't see boring at all. So let's get back to Moses' prayer. In my Bible, I've highlighted every single prayer that's been prayed, to study it, to see how people talk to God, because we come from this modern culture that's very religious and has all these weird rules involved with praying. and these certain sequences and these certain rhythms and this certain tone and all this stuff. But let's see how Moses prayed. You ready? Why have you done evil to your servant? That's what it says. Dude, what's up? Why have you done evil to me, man? Don't pee yourself. I don't think I'm that funny. Look. Why have you done evil to your servant, and why have I not found favor in your eyes to put the burden of all of these people on me? Was it I who conceived all of these people? Was it I who brought them forth? That you should say to me, carry them on your bosom as a foster father carries a nursing child to the land which you swore to their fathers? Oh, Lord in heaven. Where am I to get meat to give all these people? For they weep before me, saying, give us meat to eat. I'm unable to bear all these people alone because the burden is too heavy for me. And if you are doing this to me, kill me. Please, kill me, says it twice. If I found favor in your eyes, then let me not see my evil. Wow. I have never heard a message on a prayer life that sounds like that. There has been books written about prayer lives, and they don't sound like that stuff right there at all. That stuff is real. Have any of you ever felt this way? Oh, Lord God Almighty, I pray for world peace. Oh, Lord God, I pray. He is real. He's like, dude, enough. I don't want this job. I don't like this job. I can't stand these people. They suck. Verse 16. Then Yahweh said to Moshe, gather to me 70 men of the elders of Israel, whom you know to be elders of the people and officers over them, and bring them to the tent of appointment, and let them stand there before you. God's giving now a strategy, a business strategy right here. And I shall come down and speak with you there, and shall take of the Spirit that is on you and put it on them. And they shall bear the burden of the people with you, so that you do not bear it yourself alone. And say to the people, set yourselves apart for tomorrow, and you shall eat meat, because you have wept in the hearing of Yahweh, saying, who is giving us meat to eat? For it was well with us in Mitzrayim. And Yahweh shall give you meat, and you shall eat. You are going to eat not 1 day, nor 2 days, nor 5 days, nor 10 days, nor 20 days, but for a new moon of days, 30 days, until it comes out of your nostrils and becomes an abomination to you, because you have rejected Yahweh, who is among you, and have wept before him, saying, why did we come out of Mitzrayim? And Moshe said, the people in whose midst I am are 600,000 men on foot, and you have said, I give them meat to eat for a new moon of days? Could flocks and herds be slain for them to be sufficient for them? Or could all the fish of the sea be gathered together for them to be sufficient for them? He's arguing with God. He's like, who do you think you are, man? How in the world are you going to get enough food We don't have enough cattle. We don't have an ocean near us. We couldn't possibly fish out enough food to feed these 2 million pigs. And Yahweh said to Moshe, yes. And Yahweh said to Moshe, and Yahweh says to you, is my arm, is the arm of Yahweh too short? Is the arm of Yahweh too short? See whether my word meets you or not. Exclamation point. And we put up these wimpy, whiny, wishy-washy prayers. These religious sounding that seem to sound good in front of other people prayers. And yet here Moshe is wrestling with God. Back and forth. Oh, you're going to give him meat, huh? How you going to do that? And Moshe went and spoke out. I'm going to ask you this question again. Is the arm of your God too short? Is the arm of your God too short? And Moshe went, I'm going to tell you something. After reading this Bible cover to cover 16 times straight through, and I'm now on my 17th time I'm on page 152. I got another 1,100 pages to go, and I'll get it done before the end of the year. There's something I found. He respects those that will be honest with him. He honors those that have the guts to ask the hard questions. He honors those. And he loves to surprise his children with the impossible. He loves to surprise his children with the impossible. So even Moses, who's an analytical type of a guy, he's looking around, he's counting the sheep, he's counting the cows, he's counting, he sees how far they are away from an ocean, can't possibly feed 2 million people meat for 30 straight days. And he has the guts to ask the question. Do you have the guts to ask the question? Do you have the guts to ask the question, God, how are you going to make my dream or my vision come to pass? How's this going to be done? Or do you just use your excuses to talk yourself out of it and say, God told me? Are you looking with your eyes to calculate that something can't be done? Never even showing up before your God to say, hey, man, I got a dream. If you're not the one that planted it, then pull that sucker right out of me. But if you are the one that planted it, you got to show me how we're doing this, man. I'm your kid. How are we doing this? I suck. Everyone sucks around me. My job sucks. My finances suck. Help! That's real. You don't think he sees through your fake prayers? You don't think he sees through your repetitious prayers that have no heart in it? When you read this prayer by Moses, how many of you can hear the heart? How many of you can hear the despair? How many of you can hear the realness? How many of you can hear the boldness? What was the last conversation you had with your God? Trying to butter him up? Trying to manipulate him into doing what you want? Trying not to make him mad? That was not what was happening here. Moses, it says that in Moses' eyes, the anger that was burning in God against the people was evil. He judged God as evil. This is not the first time this happened. He did this before too. And he actually told God to repent. Repent for the evil that's in your heart. He did. When God approached Moses and said, I'm killing them all. I'm killing them all. I'm going to start over with you. He's like, repent for the evil in your eyes. Repent for this evil in your heart. Like, cojones. Huge. Brass. Brass, huge cojones. If you don't know what cojones are, find your local Mexican. Or Latin. What's cojones? Or you can ask Google Translate. Brass cojones. Danny, how do I spell that? Figure it out. Is the arm of Yahweh too short? Is the arm of Yahweh too short? Quit trying to hide your screw-ups from him. He sees it all and still loves and adores you. In fact, he's laughing at you that you think you can actually hide it. He's like, look at that, isn't that cute? Just like you do with your 3-year-old who stole an Oreo and it got it all black in their teeth. Did you eat an Oreo? No. 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 And there it is, all in their teeth. Is how he's looking at you. You're like, really? Go look in the mirror, son. Did you eat some dirt? Yeah. Let's go have another bite of that dirt. Why don't you show me where you got it? You think you're faking him out. Acting churchy that somehow that's going to give you some favor. Look, he's saying, look. And if you are doing this to me, kill me. Please kill me. If I have found favor in your eyes, then let me not see my evil. Verse 24, and Moshe went out and spoke to the people the words of Yahweh, and he gathered the 70 men of the elders of the people and placed them around the tent. First of all, that right there is delegation. If you're carrying a burden that's too heavy and you're feeling the anxiety of it, this is your next one, young lady. You're feeling the weight of all the responsibility. It's time to raise up other people and trust them and trust their leadership. It's time to delegate and allow them to step up, rise up, and do something great with their life. Some leaders stand in the way of their people. Some moms and dads stand in the way of their children. And they usurp the maturing process that has to happen in order for the full family to reach their destiny, in order for the business to reach its destiny. Managers have a tendency of controlling people's growth, holding the growth back because of a desire for perfection. Let me tell you about perfection. You can screw a lot of things up trying to make something perfect. You can screw a whole business up with trying to make the business perfect. You can screw the marriage up trying to make the marriage perfect. You can screw your kids up trying to make them perfect. You can screw yourself up trying to make yourself perfect. You can screw your finances up trying to make them perfect. Good leadership is going to delegate authority and let the authority that you delegated run with it. They might not do it the way you do it, but as long as you don't have to do it, you've done your job. This is not the first time this happens, by the way. There's another time when Moses' father-in-law comes and says, dude, you're going to kill yourself. You're going to wear these people out and wear you out. And Jethro told him the same thing. I call it the Jethro slap. He slapped him upside the head silly and said, dude, man, enough. You can't possibly keep this going. There's 2 million of them. There's one of you. This is stupid. Delegate your authority. And then here it is, God telling him to do the same thing. Don't carry this burden. Raise up 70 men. Let them run with it. And that's exactly what they did. So there's some of you, that message alone out of this entire message, that message is for you. Quit carrying the full load. There's people around you that want to step up and carry the load. They're wanting the opportunity to step up, rise up, and do something great with their life. They're asking for it. They want it. So get out of their way. They're not going to do it the same as you. Some of them are going to do it better than you. And in some cases, that's what you're afraid of. Ego is afraid of not being needed anymore. So therefore, you want to control the whole territory. You want to do it all by yourself. Guess what? You will not reach the fullness of your leadership, the fullness of your wealth, if you're the one managing the whole thing. You must let go and let other people step in to their rightful place. Especially your children. Especially your children. We are in a horrible society of what we as parents have done to the next generation. It's very scary. We have 30-year-olds that don't know how to make money. This is a problem. 25-year-olds that don't know how to take care of themselves. This is a problem. This is a really big problem. Kids that are addicted to entertainment and food, bad food. This is a really big problem. It's time to go home and delegate chores to kids. Danny, that's slave labor. Pull your head out. Quit listening to that stupid crap on Facebook and the news. It's how it's been done forever. As soon as those kids were old enough to be in the fields, you have them in the fields and you have them helping. You have them learning the father's trade. You have them learning the family business. Whether the family business is the business of the home or the business outside of the home, your job, you only have 18 years. Actually, I think you have less than that because they come to a place where they don't want to hear you anymore. But while they hear you, you need to teach the boys to be men and the girls to be honorable women. And when I say a man, that comes with honor, by the way. That comes without saying. So delegation. You're not supposed to carry the whole load. You're not. And if you want to go big and far, you got to stop it. You just got to stop it. Verse 25, and Yahweh came down in a cloud and spoke to him, and took of the spirit that was upon him, and placed the same upon the 70 elders. And it came to be, when the spirit rested upon them, that they prophesied, but did not continue. However, 2 men had remained in the camp. Look, 2 out of 70. Did you hear me? Danny, I've recruited 10 new salespeople and only 1 stuck. God's numbers were 2 out of 70. What are you expecting? Danny, I got two customers and none of them reordered. Go talk to your therapist. Or go read your Bible. 2 out of 70. 2 out of 70. Get busy. I've recruited thousands and thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of customers. Many of them have quit working with us. But we got 1,200 in the room that are. We've recruited hundreds of employees. We've got 30 of them. Hundreds of people to work with us. We have 30 of them. Right now, 30 of them. 2 out of 70. 70 were promoted. 70 were given the Spirit. 2 continued. Check this out. This one's funny. By the way, how many of you feel better about your numbers? How many thought there was something wrong with your numbers? No. 2 out of 70. However, 2 men had remained in the camp. The name of one was Eldad, and the name of the other was Medad. And the Spirit rested upon them, and now they were among those listed, but did not go out to the tent, and they prophesied in the camp. And a young man ran and informed Moshe and said, Eldad and Medad are prophesying in the camp. And Yehoshua, son of Nun, which is Joshua, son of Nun, Moshe's assistant. Your Bible says minister. In the Hebrew, it's assistant. From his youth answered and said, Moshe, my master, forbid them. Then Moshe said to him, are you jealous for my sake? Oh, that all the people of Yahweh were prophets, that Yahweh would put his Spirit upon them. look at the young ones saying, "Stop them! They're competing with us." The wise ones saying, "Oh, that all of them would." The young leader wanting to control a gift in somebody else. The older leader saying, "Let everyone have the gift." And Moshe returned to the camp, both he and the elders of Israel. And a wind went forth from Yahweh, and it brought quail from the sea, and let them fall beside the camp about a day's journey on this side, and about a day's journey on the other side, all around the camp, and about 2 cubits above the surface of the ground. And the people were up all that day, and all that night, and all the next day, and all gathered quail. He who has least gathered 10 homers, and they spread them out for themselves all around the camp. The meat was still between their teeth before it was chewed, and the wrath of Yahweh burned against the people, and Yahweh struck the people with an exceedingly great plague. Then he called the name of that place Kibroth Hattaavah, because there they buried the people who had lusted. From Kibroth Hattaavah, the people set out to Hatzroth, and they were at Hatzroth. You're like, "Danny, you left it on a downer." No, you see, all the people didn't lust after the meat. Just the ones who complained, and when they saw that quail, the reason why they died is very simple. Very, very simple. When quail come over Israel, and especially over the place where they were, they've come a very long distance. They flapped their wings for many, 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 many miles. When the quail fell to the ground, the greedy, lustful ones started grabbing those suckers like crazy, cooking them up and eating them. The ones that were not lusting for that, the non-complainers, somehow intuitively knew to do something different with the quail. Not everyone died. Those of you who've been to Israel with me, you know exactly why they died. And you know exactly what the plague was. But those of you that have not been to Israel, and you haven't been to the place where we're standing where the quail actually fly over, and they migrate every year over Israel, thousands of them, in fact, 500,000 birds migrate over Israel every year. 500,000 birds. Can any of you think why those who lusted because of their complaining, they went very quickly to grab those quails that they'd fallen to the ground, cooked them up and ate them instantly? What got released into their bodies? Come on, you nutrition people. Lactic acid. Lactic acid. Lactic acid. The birds are flying for hundreds of miles. They fall to the ground. They have lactic acid in their muscles. The ones that lusted cooked them up fast, ate them fast. The other ones had the wisdom to know, let's put them in a cage for a few days, let the lactic acid out of their bodies before we cook them and eat them. Lust is a very destructive thing. Very destructive. It causes you to run towards things and get them sooner than you should have them. Sooner than you're ready for. Lust for success. You get success too fast, what happens? Crushes you, can't handle it. How many of you would not give your 5-year-old the keys to your sports car? But they want to be a sports car driver. You want to give your child everything your child wants. Why will you not give your kid, the 5-year-old, the keys to the car? What? Not ready, doesn't know the rules of the road, doesn't have the maturity. It's not safe. Now let me tell you something. Every year, quail flies over Israel. Every year. fall to the ground. Those that weren't lusting for it knew. And let the bird rest, get the lactic acid out of their body, and then we will eat. Are you hurrying? Are you rushing? Are you lusting? Are you pushing? Are you pressing for more than you can handle right now? And foregoing wisdom? How do you know? Usually comes out in fighting with your spouse, getting frustrated really quickly with your kids. Usually comes out with getting frustrated really easily with your boss, your customer, or with the ticket agent at American Airlines. Do you understand? How you know that you're pushing and lusting for something that you're not ready for is based on the fruit that's coming out of you. Lust will lead you to destruction. It'll lead you to taking on something that will destroy you. So you can read that passage now through the eyes of a father who's saying, guys, wait a few days, man, I got meat. Have I not taken care of you? Come on, you cried out for your freedom, and I brought you into a place of freedom. Come on, man, I parted the Red Sea for you. And then I killed Pharaoh's army who was after you. Do you not trust me? I brought water from a rock. Do you not trust me? I'm feeding you every day food from heaven. Do you not trust me? You want meat? All you got to do is ask. Don't complain. Don't lust for it. Don't complain about what you don't have. Just ask. Ask. Start walking in peace towards it, trusting that I will deliver it. And when I see that my child, you, have the character to manage it, far more is going to enter your hands than what you're even asking for. Far more is going to enter your hands than even what you're asking for. Friend, I've experienced this my entire adult life and my walk with Him. I have experienced when I've lusted after things and have it destroy us, like the house and the cars, right? That was all greed that motivated me to the bigger houses and the nicer cars and the $250,000 worth of jewelry and the clothes, all that stuff. That I drove myself for it and almost died twice. I had a heart attack at 24, a nervous breakdown at 25, and then a fatal heart condition at 31. I was driving myself for things I was not mature enough to handle. As the 5-year-old with the car keys to the sports car. So there comes a place where the father says, all right, man, that's what you think you want? Go ahead. Go ahead. How many of you have had the go-aheads from your Father in heaven? And you've reaped what you've sown. So He's not mad at you. He's sad. He's sad. He's like, come on. Why won't you trust me? Come on. I got your back. Come on. Just ask. Humble yourself, ask, and trust me. I got a way to feed y'all. I got a way to provide for the dream that's in you. Make sense? So what do we draw from this? Don't complain. Number one. Number two, it's hard to be a leader. And as a leader, don't try to act perfect. Don't try to impress God with your oratory, whatever, religious prayer. Be real. The struggle is real. Be real. when you talk to him. He sees what's going on. He desires that relationship with you to talk about it. If you're frustrated, tell him. You're mad, tell him. You hate what you do, tell him. Quit screwing things up by trying to be perfect. Delegate. Delegate your authority and let people rise up. And if you've delegated to one and they quit, guess what? God's numbers are 2 out of 70. His numbers are 2 out of 70. So keep going. Keep recruiting. Keep recruiting. Keep recruiting. Keep recruiting. Keep raising people up. If you end up with 2 out of 70, you're right on track. How many of you can do 2 out of 70? And last, realize that if you've encountered a spanking, the red butt, any of you get one of those? He doesn't hate you. He adores you because he disciplines those he loves. And he's trying to protect you from doing something stupid. And if you're that stubborn and you refuse to be protected, well then, by golly, he's like, all right, here's the keys. Go for it. And he's going to let life teach you because you refuse to listen and obey your Father that gives you the right, easy, blessed path to learn with. That doesn't come with no hardship. It comes with hardship. But the hardship is blessed, just as the hardship of Joseph was blessed. Do you not see that? It says it. In a prison, God blessed him. When he was a slave, God blessed him. That's what it says. That even in the struggle, he was blessed. Everyone gets to struggle. Can you write this down? Every human gets their own personal allotment of trauma, tragedy, and suffering. Every human. So do not be afraid. The difference between those who believe and are blessed in the trauma, who are blessed in the tragedy, who are blessed in the suffering, what determines the believers from the non-believers is the believers know, I'm covered. I'm covered. He is with me, and I'm blessed. The non-believers whine, murmur, complain, play the victim card, the self-pity card, dig holes deeper for themselves. They get angry, enraged, and make stupid choices in the midst of the tragedy, the trauma, and the suffering. All humans get to walk through this. So which path will you pick? The defeated one? Or will you pick knowing whose you are, whom you belong to, knowing that if he could part the Red Sea, he can save your butt out of whatever it is that you're walking through. Our daughter had a double aneurysm when she was 16 years old. She praised her God as she walked through fighting for her life. She chose to love him no matter what. The pain and the suffering, throwing up solid 10 days, massive headache, medication not helping, in ICU for a week, her brain bleeding, and she chose to trust him and to praise him through that trauma. That's what she chose to do. She could have chose to hate him, but because she chose to thank him and knowing that this would serve a greater purpose one day, that's what carried her through that trauma. So how do you act when things don't go right? Have a 3-year-old temper tantrum? Turn around and curse God? Quit? a moment of that, that's fine. But don't stay there. Don't stay there. Don't stay there. He is for you, and he wants you to succeed, and he has everything set up for you to succeed. So start changing the sooner that you obey his ways and walk with him versus him going, all right, here you go. Here's the keys. And he has to hide because he can't bear it to watch you destroy yourself. Close your eyes. Father, I love you. You are awesome. And there is none like you. There truly is just none like you. Thank you for this story of Moses. Thank you for the leadership. Thank you for the realness of him talking to you. Thank you for the reality of seeing right there leading 2 million people who are complaining and how to deal with it. That even Moses didn't have an expectation on himself to be perfect and to not respond or react, but that he reacted in the safety of you. And that you honored that. That's like so amazing to me. That you love us even when we're frustrated. You love us even when we're in despair. You love us even when we don't know what to do. You love us even when we question you. And that you honor that relationship. And I thank you that you love to shock us. Thank you that you love to do abundantly more than anything we could ever ask for, hope for, or even imagine. Thank you that you're so faithful, that you are trustworthy. Thank you that you give us a way to save our own butts. That's what you do, man. That's what you do. Father, I pray for every one of my brothers and sisters who are here. God, that the desires of their heart, that you would grant them. I pray that you make yourself so real to all of us. And that for those of us who think we have walked with you for a long time, that we'd be willing to just walk away from all of our religiosity and just get real with you. That we would see, not through the eyes of church, but that we would see, and church is great, but that we actually see through your eyes. Help us to know you. Just like that other prayer that Moses prayed a few chapters ago. That I want to know you more. I want to know your ways so that I will find favor in your sight. Yeah. Teach us how to talk to you. Teach us how to walk with you. Show us your ways. And I pray that you release your spirit over everybody here this weekend and over all of the hotel workers here this weekend. Everybody sleeping in hotel rooms, the other conferences that are going on at the same time that this one is, that you would bless those conferences, that you would reveal yourself to the people in those conferences, that you'd bring peace to those that need it, financial blessing to those who need it. Yeah. With all of you guys in there with your eyes closed, I just want to invite you that if, you haven't been totally committed to him, and, that maybe that you were on the side of those other guys in that complaining place and just not doing your very best, I want to give you the opportunity to make things right with him. Remember, take action on what you're learning. Don't sit there, thinking, that's not me. I already saw your hands, fool. So if you got something to make right with him, and most importantly, if you that this whole conversation about Jesus, the Messiah, giving his life to wash us of our sins, that as far as the east is from the west, he remembers them no more, that the Father sent his Son so that we could be reconciled back to him because he desires a relationship with you. He loves you. He adores you. You're his child. He planted you in your mother's womb. He has surrounded you with the people that he surrounded you with to learn, to be developed, to create your story that will help another person with their story. So if you've never committed your ways to him, or if you have and you've kind of fallen away from him and you want to commit your ways to him now, just go ahead and put up your hand. And you're just making that declaration with him. It's awesome. It's awesome. You can put your hand down. Yeah. So it's a little tight right up here in front of the stage. So if you put up your hand, just come up over here, and we're going to like crowd in together right here, and I want to get the chance to just pray with you really quick. It takes humility and courage to do that. And then also for any of you that, you've been off track, you've been in that complaining place, that this is your opportunity, that you're coming before him, not coming before me and not coming before anybody else, but you're coming before him and saying, yeah, poop, I did it again. My tongue. Yeah, it's awesome. Wow. It's awesome. Good job. It takes humility to do this, It takes humility to lay down your heart and to say, I've been wrong. And I need to make it right. I'm really proud of you. Wow. It's awesome. There's still more people coming, so I'm going to wait a minute. Yeah. He's so proud of you. He's proud of you. And he's safe. And he's a good father. That's my prayer, is that you learn that about him. That you learn what a good father he is. No matter how good the father was that you had here on earth, or that you have, no matter how wonderful that person is, he ain't nothing compared to your real father. The real one that said, I want this one on earth. I want this one on earth. That he formed you and fashioned you and planted you and said, this is good, man. This is good. That he made you look the way you look because he likes it. He likes it. He likes the size of your nose, the color of your eyes. He likes your head. He likes your smile. Your teeth, even if there's only 3 left. He planted all of these things in you. He personally fashioned you because he delights in seeing you. It doesn't matter what man, your friends, your family say. You weren't made for them. You were made for him. And man is frail. They don't understand. Even your parents. Like my stepfather telling me I'm stupid. But guess what my God was saying? Guess what my God was saying? My dad couldn't understand. He didn't have eyes to see what my real father planted in me. So it made me a little retarded in some places. But had me not so retarded in some other places. Everyone gets their own piece of retardation. How many of you have had your super dose of stupidity? right? We've all had our super dose of stupidity. We all have weaknesses. He made sure we all came with weaknesses. You know why? So we would need him. So we would need him. Because in our weakness, he makes us strong. He designed us to need him. He fashioned us to need him. Can you see the relationship between Moses and God? Moses had all these faults and weaknesses that forced him to come to his God. And his God always over delivers. Your God will always over deliver in ways you don't expect. Remember what I was saying in the beginning? You got a vision and you think you know how it's supposed to happen? Let it happen the way it's supposed to happen. You'll see it. And there's some part of your vision that you will never see. Do you realize that? There's some of your vision that you literally are planting here this weekend. Do you realize you're planting it this weekend? Just as Jacob was planting. And by the way, the first two kings didn't come from Joseph, the one that he planted the nice fine coat on. Benjamin and Judah. 1,000 years. So he was planting seed. He was doing his part of the vision, his part of the promise. So I have no idea what part you're going to get to do or what part I get to do. I just know this. In my weakness, he's made strong. So I'd really rather stay in this place of weakness. Because that's a safe place to be with him. So let me just lead you in a simple prayer. Just say this after me. Heavenly Father, you're awesome. And I've screwed up again. And I'm sorry for not trusting you. I'm sorry for the mess I've made. I'm sorry for my complaining. Even though I hate complainers. And yet I'm acting just like them. Forgive me for my entitled heart, my selfishness, my pride, my arrogance. Forgive me for trying to make things perfect, when you clearly have designed them to not be perfect. Why did you do that? Will you teach me how to see what real perfection looks like versus my stupid idea of it? I thank you for the message tonight. I hear you loud and clear. And I need you. I need your forgiveness. I need a greater understanding of your love. I need a greater understanding of freedom. Too many times, I've been like the children of Israel, longing for bondage again. You've been trying to lead me out of bondage. I see now that you're answering my prayers. I've prayed and asked and hoped to not struggle financially. And today I heard solutions. You heard my cry. You've heard my hope. And you're handing it to me this weekend. I want to partner with you. I want to honor you. I want to follow you. And tonight I choose to believe that you sent your son His name is Yeshua, which means salvation. 2,000 years ago, he willingly gave his life, and you willingly took his life. Yes. That his blood would be shed to wash me clean right now. I receive the blood of Yeshua, the Messiah, cleansing me, purifying me of all of my mistakes, my failures, my insecurities. Forgive me for the people I've hurt, out of my hurt, out of my insecurities. Forgive me for how I have failed them, how I've failed myself. Forgive me if I've disappointed you. I don't want to do that anymore. I receive your forgiveness, and I believe that Yeshua rose from the dead. And that he is seated at your right hand, and he's praying for me right now. Father, will you redeem my financial mistakes, my leadership mistakes? Will you cancel the seed that I have sown in the field of complaining? I'm asking for crop failure. You said you could do anything. You said your arm is not too short. So you could clearly bring some crop failure on my complaining, on my whining, on my murmuring, on my entitlement, my pride, and my selfishness. It's a big ask. But I need your help. Will you bless me? Will you prosper me? Will you expand my influence? Even though I screw up? Will you grow what I want to grow? Will you help me build these dreams and ideas? Even though I mess up? Help me. Help my relationships. If you have children, say, please help my kids. Help them to be better than me. Help them to be more blessed than me. Will you protect them how you see fit? Will you give me wisdom and how to speak to them? Will you help me to be a blessing like Joseph was a blessing? You blessed Egypt because of Joseph. Will you bless my place of labor because of me? Will you give me witty ideas? Give me wisdom. You said if I ask for wisdom, you'd give it. That's what it says in your book. You're not a man that you would lie. This says you're trustworthy. So I'm asking for wisdom. I need it. Will you give me knowledge? Will you help me to learn and to learn quickly and help me to produce better results? I invite you right now into my home, into my health, into my body, into my finances. I open everything up to you. You see it all. You've given it all. I give it back to you. I dedicate it to you. I'm now in a working relationship with you. Yes. I work for you, the King of the universe, who sees everything I do. I'm not bound by a boss. I'm not bound by the President of the United States, by senators, governors, or mayors. You are the one that will prosper me. And I'm asking that you will prosper me. I'm asking you that will teach me how to prosper. Teach me how to prosper in all of my ways. Will your grace rest upon me? That it is simple for me to do this. Will you plant your desire in me to prosper in righteousness? That I will stay in right standing with you and with those that are around me. Even the ones I don't like. Even the ones that annoy me, that tick me off. Change me, mold me, fashion me to be what I should be. Give me the character. Teach me how to gain that character. You're my father. As a father, you're supposed to teach me. So I'm here as your child, ready to learn. And I confess that you've been teaching me all along, and I've been stubborn, rebellious, stiff-necked, and my head has been in my colon. You've seen it. You've probably even smelt it. Thank you for forgiving me for my foolishness. So I let go of my foolishness. I release that foolishness. Yep. And I release the fears of screwing up again. There's no reason to fear it. I know I will do it again. But this time, I will quickly ask for forgiveness, quickly be released, and receive your unconditional love. Okay, just stay right there. I just want to pray a blessing over you. Yeah, Father, I thank you for my brothers and sisters. I thank you for the confessions from their mouths. And Father, with everything that you've planted in me to bless, according to your riches and according to your glory and for your glory alone. That as these people choose to walk with you, and as I choose to walk with you, and we choose to trust you, and we choose to not race ahead of you and to not lust after the stuff we shouldn't be lusting after, but instead we lust after a relationship with you. Yes. Father, I pray that you plant that insatiable desire for more of you. Plant that inside of us. Open our ears and our eyes and our heart to gain understanding of you. Father, expose the places where we built bondage and show us how to tear it down. And in the tearing of it down, that we trust you that it is torn down. Father, I pray your presence goes with every single one of us. And God, what you've planted in us, the spirit that you planted in us, that you will multiply that in all of our brothers and sisters here, and that they will multiply it out there. Freely we've received from you. Freely, Father, we want to give. Yeah. So, God, I bless their relationships with their spouse or their boyfriend or girlfriend. I bless their health, that their health will be in right standing according to your word. I bless them, Father, with self-discipline and self-control. Bring forth the fruit of your Spirit. Impart great, deep, passionate love inside of them. Renew the love they have with their spouses of their youth. Renew the relationships with their kids. Father, open their hearts to intimacy. Bring restoration where it needs to be brought. Bring redemption where it needs to be brought. Yes. Thank you, Father, for the reset today, all day today being a day of reset. A reset in the finances, playing to win in the finances, playing to win as leaders. Leaders of households, leaders of kids, leaders of employees, leaders of customers, leaders in the marketplace. I pray a fresh new spirit upon everybody who's here, that it is evident when they go home. It is evident even when they go back to their hotel room. It is evident that there is change that is happening upon their lives, that it causes other people to say, what has happened to you? Who are you? Yes. And that you, God, will be glorified for the changes that you're doing inside of them. Yes. Bless their finances. Father, I pray that you open the floodgates with generational wealth, that they will learn to be trusted with what they have and to multiply it, that their minds will start being attracted to learning how to become investors, learning how to become givers, givers of the poor and the widow, and taking care of those who are disabled, who cannot take care of themselves. Father, plant inside of them the same exact things that you planted inside of Hans and I. am blown away that you planted the desire in us to learn, and then you taught. There's not been anything that you haven't answered. You healed Erica. You healed me from paralysis. You restored my relationship with my mom. You restored my relationship with my sister, Maria. Thank you, Father. I've seen you heal so many people's bodies. I've seen you restore so many marriages. There really is none like you. So God, let your flood of restoration just wash over us. God, even though we've made stupid mistakes financially and we have been selfish pigs, please still restore what has been lost and redeem the time that has been wasted. Yes. Give us another chance. Yes. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Father. I don't know if you know him as a healer. I so know him as a healer. If you need healing, get to know him as a healer. Is it your physical body that needs healing? Is it your emotions that need healing? Is it your heart that needs healing? Is it your marriage that needs healing? What needs to be healed? Right now is the time to ask for that healing. Has your mind been racing and you need peace? He says, ask for whatever you wish, and he will give it. He'll give it. So what is it that you need? What is it that you need? Open your mouth and ask. Yes. Ask him to heal your emotions. You know that he desires to heal your emotions. So, Father, right now, in the mighty name of Yeshua, the Savior of the world, I ask that you bring healing inside of our emotions. Healing right now from head to toe. Healing from the memories. A different perspective to see the wounds from a different place. To the wounds that have beaten us up into a place of blessing, into a place of healing, a place of restoration. Father, I speak to the emotional men and women, the emotions of the men and the women right now, and I pray they all come into right standing, right perspective. Yes. Shine your light on those emotions now and bring your peace. Bring your understanding right now. Ask him for whatever you need. He's not a father that you would ask for bread and he would give you a snake. He's a good father. And ask like you're going to get it. Ask like you're going to get it. Ask like you're going to get it. Believe like you already got it. Receive like it's already yours. That he's even saying to you, come on, let it out of your mouth. It's right here. I got it for you. He's been waiting for you to ask for it, by the way. I believe he's saying to some of you, why are you tormenting yourself? Yeah. His desire is to grant you the desires of your heart. That's his desire. He promises that I will grant the desires of the heart of those who diligently seek me. Do you know what you're doing right now? Do you know what you're doing right now? You're diligently seeking him. You're standing in a room with 1,000 people and you've come forward to say, I've screwed up. That's total humility. That's total humility. So what is it that you want? You want love? What do you want? Just say it. I can't hear you. What do you want? Do some of you feel like you don't have the right to ask for what you want because you feel like you screwed up so bad? You're the one he'll give it to. You know why? Because he loves to shock his children who know they deserve nothing. And he loves to give it to just shock you and to say, I heard you. I heard you. And I love you. And you matter. So what do you want? What do you want? It's yours. Passion. Yeah. To feel alive. Passion. You feel alive with passion. What do you want? Yes. Need your back healed, your feet healed, your ankles healed, your hips healed. What do you need? What do you need? You want children. Oh, he's in the baby planting business. Remember that cobweb womb? So it's real simple. Just tell him, Father, dude, like her womb was dead. Like dead. Cobwebs and everything. If he could plant a baby in Sarah, can he plant a baby in you? We've seen that miracle a lot around here. I wasn't supposed to have any more children after my first baby. Doctors told me I would never have children again, and she was living with somebody else. She was adopted. I had a disease inside my body, And then I had a tubal pregnancy that took out half my organs, my female organs. They said I would never have children again. First time with Hans, there's Erica. I had unprotected sex for 4.5 years. I was married to somebody else, unprotected. Never took any birth control. The whole time I was homeless, never did any birth control. May 22nd, 1991, Erica was planted in my womb. Total miracle. And then Cabe, and then Roman, and then Micah. 4 complete miracles. Complete miracles. I got the medical documentation where the doctor is saying, you will never bear children again. And I was 18 years old. You saw the gorgeous one that was standing here. They're amazing. So if that's what you want, you just have to ask. You see, we're afraid to ask because we're afraid we're not going to get it. Be stupid enough to think you will. Be foolish enough to think you will. Can you do that? Have you ever done it? It works. Yes, it works. It works. Faith is stupid to other people. I like my stupid faith. I love my stupid faith. My stupid faith has brought everything into my life. Everything into my life is because of my stupid faith. So get as stupid as me. Get as stupid as me. And watch him blow you away. And he will. He loves to do that. So what do you want? I asked you that question about 12 hours ago. Exactly. What do you want? What do you want? You want a new kidney. A new kidney. Well, he's in the business of producing kidneys. A new kidney. Another chance to do it right starts tonight, baby. It started actually today. It started when you walked in these doors. A new chance. Yeah. Emotional healing, I mean, he's super good at that. You ask him. He's faithful. He's trustworthy. He's faithful. He's trustworthy. And he wants to surprise you and shock you. So what do you want? Another thing I'm going to tell you is that sometimes the wants that you have, he's the one who planted it in you. He planted the want in you to draw you to him because you couldn't make it happen by yourself. So that question you wrote on your paper there, when you submitted the paper, yeah, that question. You want some peace, right? He's the one who planted that desire in you because that's what he wants to give you. Sometimes we just have to let it happen. Sometimes we just have to receive it. Peace, he says, I give you. Peace I leave with you. It's a gift. So if you want to hang out here for a little bit and you want to get the courage to open your mouth and ask him for what you want, stay as long as you want. Just ask. You know what it says? It says where 2 or more are gathered and agree on anything, then he will give it. That's what it says. 2 or more are gathered and believe that he will do it. It also said where 2 or more are gathered, he is here. I mean, I'm not very good at math, but there are more than 2 of us here. And I'm pretty sure there's more than 2 of us who believe. So partner up with each other and tell each other what you want. And then each of you ask him for what you want. Go ahead. Partner up. partner up and ask.